continuing with probability this week, this time looking at a different type of diagram. So our title today is going to be tree diagrams. They don't really look much like trees, but they're called tree diagrams, and they're something which will almost certainly be on the GCSE paper. They really like this topic. They're a nice way for us to be able to represent probabilities and for us to work out the probability of two different things happening at the same time. So let's start. We need a scenario. So let's start with, let's pretend we've got just a normal coin. So I've got a coin. I don't know how you want to represent that. I'll just put a pound sign on it. So I've got a normal coin, and then I'm also going to have a spinner. So you might want to get a circle to draw around, so this is a bit neater. And I'm going to split my spinner into 4 equal sections, so like quarter it like that. Now whether you want to actually use colour at this point, or whether you want to just write the colour in, it doesn't matter. Let's see if I've got enough colours to try and colour. So I'm going to have a purple section. You could just write purple. Oh, my purple pen's not going to work. Let me scribble on something. Oh no, that didn't go to plan. Right, I'll have a pink section instead. And I'll have 2 black sections and a white section. So I've got a pink, 2 black and a white. Right, so we're going to toss the coin and we're going to spin the spinner and we're going to see what we get. So we know that when we toss a coin, there's 2 outcomes. I could get a head or I could get a tail. So we represent that by kind of the first set of branches in my tree diagram. So somewhere down your page a little bit, I need you to draw me 2 branches. One going up like that and one going down like that. So this is kind of our starting point, and this is symbolising that I've got 2 options. I'm either going to get a head or I'm going to get a tail. So I'm just going to write at the end of this branch, head, and I'm going to write at the end of this branch, tail. So that's representing the 2 options that I've got to start with. So let's say I got a head. So now I'm here. Well, now I'm going to spin my spinner. And I've got 3 options, haven't I? I could get a black, I could get a pink, or I could get a white. So coming off from here, I need to have 3 branches because there's 3 options for the next thing. Okay, so I could get, what could I get? I could get a pink, I could get a black, or I could get a white. Okay, so this was the coin, this was option 1. So above this first set of branches, let's write coin. So these branches belong to the coin, and these branches belong to the spinner. Okay, right, now let's have a look. Imagine we'd got a tail on our coin, and then I spin the spinner. Well, I've still got 3 options, haven't I, for my spinner? I'm still going to either get pink, black, or white. This isn't going so well, is it? Pink, black, or white. So they're my 3 options again. So I either, imagine walking along it. You either get a head or a tail. So you're either going to walk along here or you're going to walk along here. So let's pretend I got a tail. So I walk along here. So now I'm stood here. Now you spin your spinner. So you're either going to get a pink, a black, or a white. So if you got a white, you'd walk along there. The way we make this a little bit harder, or in other words, in order to get more marks, we have to add the probabilities onto the branches of this tree diagram. So let's think about a coin. Let's pretend it's just a perfectly fair coin. It's not biased. So we need to think about the probability of getting a head or the probability of getting a tail. And we're going to be working in fractions for this. So the probability of getting a head, well, that's a half, isn't it? There's 2 options, a head or a tail, and we want one of them. Remember, that's how we build probability. So the number on the bottom is the number of options, and the number of on the top is how many of them we want. And again, for a tail, it's going to be a half. And we write those probabilities on the branches like that. Right, now let's have a look at the spinner. So how many sections are there? So like in the coin, we said how many options were there? Well, there was head or tail. How many sections has my spinner got? Well, my spinner has got 4 sections. So we know that all of our fractions are going to have a 4 on the bottom because there's 4 options, there's 4 sections. Right, how about pink? How many of the sections are pink? 1. So I'm going to have 1 out of 4. That's the probability of getting a pink, isn't it? There's 4 sections and 1 of them is pink. So there's 4 sections, that goes on the bottom, and 1 of them is pink. How about black? Well, there's 4 sections, so that 4's on the bottom, 2 of them are black. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are thinking, oh, we could simplify that fraction. In fact, this is the only time in maths that I tell you not to bother for now. We're going to leave it like that, and then we might simplify our answer right at the very end. But for now, we're going to leave it like that. It just makes things a little bit easier later on. And then how about white? Well, there's 4 sections, so 4's on the bottom, and 1 of them is white. And again here, I've got 1 pink section, 2 black sections, and 1 white section. Okay, so that's my completed tree diagram. They might ask us some questions about it. So they might say, for example, what's the probability of getting a head and a pink? Or what's the probability of getting a tail and a black? So let's try and have a look at one of those questions. You might remember that I said we use a capital P and then a curly bracket. This represents the probability. So that P stands for the probability. It just saves us having to write out that long word. So what should we go for? Let's ask, what's the probability of getting a head and a black on the spinner? So that means probability of getting a head and a black. Now, this is when our tree diagram comes in really, really useful because we just need to remember one rule for this tree diagram. If we walk along the branches, we multiply. And that's the rule you've got to remember. So let's start at the beginning. Now, what do we want? We want a head. So we walk along the head branch, which has got a half on it. So the first fraction is going to be a half. Right, now we're here, and now we want black. So we're going to walk along the black branch, which has got 2 over 4. And the only rule is that when we go along the branches, we multiply. So that's a half from this branch times multiplied by whatever was on the black, because I wanted a head and then black. Now remember, to multiply fractions, it's dead easy. We multiply the top numbers, so 1 times 2, and we multiply the bottom numbers, 2 times 4, which is 8. And now I can simplify that, can't I? I can divide the top by 2, and I can divide the bottom by 2, which gives me 1 over 4. So that's my answer. So let's just write down that rule. We multiply along the branches. Now, if you can remember that rule, then you'll be absolutely fine in tree diagrams. So you multiply along the branches. Okay, so that is all you need to have a go. I am going to do one more example, but feel free to stop there if you'd like to. There's only one worksheet this week, which I'd like you to submit. So it's just called Worksheet 1. But it is the one that I'd like you to submit. But there's only one this week. You've worked really, really hard. So there's just one. If you'd like to watch another example or make some more notes in your book, I am going to do one more example now. Okay, but feel free to stop. I won't be offended. Right, I'm going to turn over. And we're just going to do one more, really, really similar. But this time, instead of a coin and a spinner, I'm going to have 2 buckets with buttons or balls or sweets or something in. So I'm going to have 2 buckets like that. Right, and in the first one, I'm going to have 2 black balls and a white ball. And in this bucket, I'm going to have 3 black balls and 2 white balls, like that. And they're miraculously floating, but that's okay. Right, so let's call this bucket 1. And we're going to call this bucket 2. And all we're going to do is we're going to pick a ball out of bucket 1, and then we're going to pick a ball out of bucket 2. Okay? So, let's go for, start at the beginning. Well, how many options are there for bucket 1? Well, I'm either going to get a black or a white, aren't I? They're the 2 options for bucket 1. I'm either going to get a black or I'm going to get a white. So, let's write black and white. Right, now let's look at bucket 2. What are my options? Well, again, I could get a black or I could get a white. They're the only 2 options from bucket 2. I could get a black or a white. And again, if I picked a white out of bucket 1, and now I'm going to go into bucket 2, I could get a black or a white. So I could get a black or a white. Right, let's label it. So this is bucket 1, and this is bucket 2. Okay? Right, let's put some fractions onto our tree diagram. What's the probability of getting a black out of bucket 1? You need to ask yourself 2 questions. How many balls are there? Well, there's 3, so that goes on the bottom. And how many of them are what we want? Well, we're on the black branch, so we're looking at the black, and there's 2 blacks. And then how about the white? So, there's 3 balls in total. How many of them are white? 1. So that's bucket 1 sorted. Now we're looking at bucket 2. So I've picked a black one out of bucket 1, and now I'm looking at bucket 2. Well, what's the probability of getting a black? Well, there's 3 black balls and there's 5 in total. Or how about a white? Well, there's 2 white balls and 5 in total. Or here, same thing, isn't it? Here, if I picked a white one out of the first bucket, it doesn't affect what happens with the second bucket. So there's 3 black balls out of 5, and there's 2 white balls out of 5 in bucket 2. And then they could ask us for things like, what's the probability of getting a white and then a black? So, what's the probability of getting a white and then a black? So, we want a white one first. So I walk along my white branch, which is 1 over 3. And remember, my only rule is that when I'm walking along the branches, I multiply. So I've walked along the white branch, and now I'm going to multiply it by, well, what do I want now? I want a black. So I'm going to walk along the black branch, which is 3 over 5, and I'm multiplying them. Right, multiply the top numbers. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. And then simplify if you can. I can divide the top by 3, and I can divide the bottom by 3. Okay, so that's it for tree diagrams. So as I said, there's one worksheet this week that I'd like you to have a go at, and I'd like you to submit it, please. So either email it to me or send me a photo on Show My Homework. Any problems, send me a message or get your parents to send me a message or whatever, and I'm more than happy to help. Thank you so much for all the work you've sent in so far, and I look forward to receiving your tree diagrams work.